Yes.
Hello, Scott.
Hello, Perry.
How are you?
We're having some fun before we got on the show here, before we turned on the recorder. Pre-record what we're going to do and what you're going to put up on your channel for the benefit of other folks on this wonderfully enlightened paradisical planet Earth. Not, but it can be. And that's a good thing. I don't think at this point, the way the world is, most people can even comprehend the possibility that a world could be transformed in an unexpected way, right out from under their feet in such a good way. But that's the way things are done out of town with the kind folks from other worlds these days. They don't operate the way they used to in galactic history. They learned from early experiences in space travel and things like this that interfering in younger cultures to give them technology they're not ready for, they're not mature enough or wise enough to deal with, would end up causing great destruction. So they're very much stayed out of interfering. Tyrants, on the other hand, from other worlds, don't have a lot of ethics or morals, so they interfere, and then they have to be stopped or policed, even war, to stop them sometimes. This has been the nature of our lower universe, physical universe, our Milky Way galaxy and other galaxies and stuff like that. It's so, I don't know. To people from other worlds, when they think about people watching Star Trek or Star Wars and getting just so mesmerized by big ships and weapons and bad guys and good guys blowing each other up, they don't really recognize, how could they, that these things take place and have taken place long ago in galactic history. And even in other galaxies, other places. It's true. The use of magic as a powerful force is part of the offshoot of the hue in the lower worlds. People wielding a positive or a negative charge through devices. Most wizards' wands are actually extraterrestrial devices. And they're just snowing people on Earth that they're magic. See, there's a lot of things people don't understand because they don't understand higher technology, or technology that to some beings is just a piece of cake, nothing. It's no big deal. Getting in and out of their bodies, no big deal. They grew up with it. Getting on an anti-gravity ship and tripping across the galaxy, halfway across it in a day, going having tea somewhere with some friends. It's not a big deal. I would have to say there are not spaceships out there running around the galaxy for every person on every planet. That's not practical. A whole world would have a certain number of them, and they would be for the good of the whole planet, and a lot of people would be trained to go on missions on them. But all the citizens on that planet don't really want to get on a ship and travel all these other worlds. It's not very practical. But they learn from their associates when they return from these journeys everything that they went through on that journey without going on the journey themselves. It's different than it is on Earth. The only reason I'm bringing this up is so that the listeners can have a better perspective of how life, which is far more vast and complex and wonderful and evolved than people on Earth, and how much of it is there out there that they've been deliberately made in ignorance not to know, kept in ignorance, out of fear that if people on Earth found out in our current technological state and our differences being so vast between countries and religions, that the more people would have access to, the more violent or destructive they would become with it. They try to force their will, their belief, and everything else on everybody, be doing it to everybody with powerful weapons and tools, and that ends in destruction. Our planet is already in that problem with nuclear weapons. Not that they're going to be allowed to use them, because they aren't. There was a short time when they were allowed to use them, and then they were banned. Not just on Earth, out there, banned from setting them off on Earth. That's classified. The reason this is being brought up is because when a person becomes aware of what exists beyond Earth while they're on Earth, and they get to interact with some of these beings, they get to go out of their body at night when the body's asleep and be conscious and come back. It enlightens them. It changes them from thinking they're a body stuck on a planet to thinking they're a being with a body they're running on a planet. Big difference, great big huge difference in understanding. How people visualize and create changes because of that understanding. It's inevitable, natural. So when I'm running around in the daytime on Earth, my head isn't full of Terrellian and interplanetary travel and higher dimensions all day long. I'm out there smelling the flowers and looking at the trees and going to lunch and playing with starlight and doing whatever I do. But you see, for me, that's all present. As soon as I put my attention on it, I'm there, connected to things. And this is the way people should be living. Doesn't mean they have to be enlightened and God aware 24 hours a day on some higher dimension. Because if they did that all the time, they'd probably walk across the street without even seeing it, get run over by a car. There's a practical nature to the way, a selective nature to the way that enlightenment is utilized properly. So if a person has higher faculties turned on that has had them shut down for many lifetimes, they don't even know it. And if it was suddenly turned on, they would create havoc and create terror in other people. They wouldn't know how to speak to other people or how much is going too far, how much to say and how much not to say, how much to show them, how much not to show them. And it would create terrible havoc. And meaning well, it would. So we don't want that. We want people to be able to acquire what has been suppressed in them in a natural, comfortable way. So it becomes like, oh yeah, I used to know about Nerexum. I used to know about the Pleiades. I used to know about higher dimensions and all this. And they just kind of come out of their illusion and begin to know with some confidence. So when they start to work on this world, one of the first things that people discover is why they should never use their imagination in a negative way, no matter what the outer world tries to compel you to do. Don't want to use it that way, because the energy behind everything in the physical and other dimensions is in existence to respond to Atmas, what beings, the real us, imagines into it. And it will co-create whatever we imagine, good or bad. If tyrants want to keep control of masses of people, they want their imagination scattered in all directions, not focused. They don't want masses of people working together collectively. They want them afraid of the future, afraid of their own destiny, afraid of war, afraid of this, afraid of that, afraid of taxes, afraid of governments, afraid of police, afraid of this. They want people scattered. And bits of their imagination is going off into all these negative things. And it keeps them grounded to this planet. To consciously be aware of what we are not in the body, the imagination has to be focused in and disciplined in one direction, in one way. It can't be scattered all over. So if a person discovers how to withdraw their imagination from all the brainwashing out there that is of a negative nature, no matter what it is, it's okay to learn what's on the news or see what's going on, but you got to remember that the news on this planet is highly manipulated politically. It isn't really honest news. And it's sent out to the public to keep them where certain people want them. You don't get major news programs talking about a spaceship that just landed secretly in the desert in Area 51 from another planet, because it's classified. Russia and China do the same thing. They don't tell their people they've met with anybody from another planet, because they keep in their positions of power and they keep things the way it is, doing it the way they're doing it. But here's the thing, and I discovered this, it was really quite something. those same people, governments and classified, don't really want to do what they're doing. They feel it's necessary to protect people, but it becomes, after a while, just kind of an elitist thing which they're just doing for themselves, and the original idea gets lost in the fact that they're doing it and continuing to do it too long for too many years. They don't know how to tell people the truth after they've lied to the planet's population for so long. We've been over this before, but it means that most of these people are not bad people. They're just misdirected subconsciously. Things were done to them without their consent or awareness that has made them behave and act out of fear. The rule of thumb is, whenever a decision is made based on fear, it is incorrect and will lead to other problems that have to have other decisions made that will also be incorrect. And then they have to try to clean up the mess they made, and it just goes in a circle. So at some point, what has to happen for people here, they need to kind of somehow come out of this illusion of fear and terror of the future. That's number one. And then they can take a breath of air and look around for once and begin to see off into the multidimensional universe, right from Earth. The physical brain of a human being cannot see other worlds. It can't see inner dimensions. It can't see a spaceship. It can't get out of its body and go somewhere. The brain doesn't get out of its own brain and leave the body. A brain can't leave the body. It's part of the body. The being is the only thing that can leave the brain and the body on automatic and go somewhere. People do it when their body dies anyway. But most people are afraid of what lies beyond this life because they've been raised to believe it could be terrible or evil or bad, or good guys and bad guys will get them if you don't follow their particular minister or guru or whoever's talking to them, with government sponsored often. You know, they say you don't do that because then the devil will get you, or don't do this because you can't know God. Human beings can't know this, can't know that. Just have faith in what I tell you and then wait till you die to find out. This is not right. It's being created by people on Earth to control people on Earth. So the task of higher beings and beings from other worlds right now, fairly recently, is to work with people all over the planet when they're out of their body at night and get them started down the right road, waking up to their higher things they've been made to forget when they come back in the morning, and they become changed people for the better. And it's easier to work with them one-on-one. If a ship comes and lands here, or 10,000 of them, people have to be ready. 1 second. For people to get benefit from intermingling with, in the physical universe, with their physical bodies, with beings from other worlds that are kind, they can't have their brains all full of completely wrong data and belief and information that will keep them from knowing, personally knowing, what spirit is, who they are, what the source behind all life is, how to work with it, how to create with it, because this is why we exist as beings, to learn how to do that properly. Not just beings on Earth, be everywhere. That's our real function for existing. In my work with the hue, I found that it brings life and enlivens anybody's faith or religion, whatever they're into. It brings real kinetic energy. It's a living force into whatever they believe, and then starts to enlighten them about it from their own experience. Instead of just relying on faith alone, it leads into experience. And experience done properly brings about a warm heart, lots of energy, a feeling of security, fear goes away, fear of death, all these negative things vanish. So it isn't what people think it is. Quite the opposite happens. Stepping out of life, out of your body, into greater life in the universe is a normal function for normal beings on countless world systems in the physical universe alone, except on Earth. Hard pill to swallow. Earth is a pretty backward place right now. It's had electricity for 100 years, for crying out loud. That's it. Where did you get all this technology from out of nowhere after World War II? People don't ask the right questions. They're not taught from childhood to think for themselves with depth, to really look at things. So they're swayed by outside things all the time, and it just scatters them. It's meant to do that. When a being, not the body, not the brain, begins to become conscious, while they have a brain and a body on Earth, they begin to co-create almost naturally with beings who know how to do this, their way out of this trap on this planet. What I mean by trap is not knowing who you are as a being, not a body, what it's like, what you can do with it, where you can go with it, how to run a body properly, and all those kinds of things. This is the kind of thing that only the Atma, the real soul, the real being can do. And once it starts to become aware of this, it begins to retrain the mind and the body, the brain, to accept higher information, to think and visualize in greater ways that it never got trained growing up. Because it has it somewhere in its memory from other lives and other existences that it brought into this life. Suppressed, but not destroyed. Unconscious, but not gone forever. It just needs to be brought to the surface in some way, manner, shape, or form. And then that being begins to remember and recall for themselves. I would have to say that the best of all, from my perspective and experience, and the beings I work with, the best of any religious or faith or belief or theory or science is that which leads to experience, whatever it is. Anything that does not intentionally allow people to experience or holds them back is not a good thing. At least for a being who's ready to move on, because they want to know more, and whatever they're in just won't provide it. And the leaders don't know it themselves, and if they do, they're not telling anybody. Most of the time, they don't know either. So it's kind of a self-perpetuating, I don't know nothing kind of a club on planet Earth. They think that as a being, a human being, they can't know what they would call the divine source beyond all life. It's impossible for a human being to know this. This is not true. How could it possibly be true? What makes up the Atma is a type of energy that's conscious, that is not made of electrons and protons and neutrons and quarks and quavers and semi-quavers and electron flows and radiation, any of that stuff. It is an energy behind all that that motivates it. Without that energy, none of this stuff would work. Planets wouldn't spin. Nothing would happen. And there are beings behind that energy running it, keeping everything in place. The energy that makes up the Atma is not destructible by anything in the lower dimensions. Weapons, extraterrestrials, good guys, bad guys, technology, magic, anything, good, bad. It can't be destroyed in any way, shape, or form. Physical bodies can be destroyed. Energy can be changed from matter into energy, or from energy into matter in the lower dimensions. But this isn't the case with the Atma, because it isn't comprised of energy that makes up the lower worlds. It is comprised of an energy that is way beyond the void known to most Buddhist monks. Comes from a much higher source, a much higher frequency of energy. And it's not this isn't anybody, there's no one in the history of creation as an Atma has ever been destroyed. I don't care who they are. This is really hard for people to comprehend because they think in terms of my short life and then I die. Maybe that's it, lights out. Maybe I'll go to my heaven, or maybe I'll meet my savior or my guru or my guide or someone. And all that may be true to some degree. But it's far better that a person remember who and what they are while they have a physical body alive, even on a planet as backward as Earth. Because it changes everything. You can still go up the hill and fetch the pail of water and be married and have kids, but your awareness of what you're doing as a being is completely changed. There's a freedom in that. So I bring this out in a telepathic way, knowing that maybe on the surface many people will not understand this, but also knowing down deep the being that they really are already does understand it in any language. But they need to gain back the confidence that they do, because that has been taken from them on purpose, deliberately, by tyrants somewhere in this universe before they found themselves incarnated alive on this planet with no memory. So that's why we do these things. And every time I'll repeat some of it, but also go into a little bit more dimension of it, a little bit more of the breadth and width and depth of it, because people are capable of knowing it. They may not believe it or understand it yet, but they're capable of it under the right conditions. We're not talking about the brain understanding it or the body, the being. It's not limited to the tiny focus of a human brain in a body on Earth. You have a brain that's fully developed, and yet people on Earth will tell us in their studies that human beings, for the most part, only use 6 to 10% of their brain. How is that possible? If you got a whole brain turned on, how can you only use 6 to 10% of it? It means that they're not consciously aware of how to utilize the rest of it anymore. It doesn't need to develop more in the future. The ability to utilize the entire brain needs to be turned back on. And this has to do with genomes on the DNA of human bodies on Earth. It has a lot to do with that. It also has a lot to do with removing subconscious negative terrorizing programs that people do not remember they have, don't remember what was done to them. And when they try to go down deep and remember who they are as a being, as a soul, as an Atma, there's a terrorizing energy that plays on their nervous system. They don't see or hear it, they feel it, and then they get misdirected away from doing the right thing. It's a control mechanism, and it wasn't done to people on Earth. It was done to them before they were forced to be here. This is why when I share with people that no human being ever evolved on this planet, most plant and animal life, mammals, never evolved here either. It doesn't mean they can't be brought here along and go through a kind of evolution and change in intermixing with their environment. They can. But they didn't start out here. There's a big missing link for scientists and biologists and botanists here because they keep trying to find the original source. And everything they teach in universities on this planet is based on theory, not fact. They can't prove any of it. You can go all the way back to dinosaurs 55 million years ago. Great big mammals are running around the planet. But they don't really know how they got to be that big. They kind of say, well, we see little animals further back and then they get bigger and bigger. They don't understand what that experiment was, who brought it about, where did it come from, why did it suddenly end? Human beings in this form have been able to come to this planet for more than 50 million years, since the dinosaurs went through their extinction experience. There's a history missing in the consciousness of people on Earth, just completely suppressed. They're taught maybe 10,000 years and back to, before Egypt, Samaria. It's tinker toys. You have to go back hundreds of thousands, even millions of years to see the real history of this planet. The same is true of the history of the Galactic Alliance and this Milky Way galaxy, and all the worlds and people and beings that are in it, that have been in it long before there was life on Earth, in one form or another. And then there are billions of galaxies out there with billions of stars and planets in each one that predate this galaxy. Where did they come from? What kind of life is on them? It's almost, very much common sense to understand that when you look through the Hubble telescope and see billions of galaxies, hundreds of billions, and people on Earth are so, misdirected, being kind to them, to think that, we might be the only life in all of that, because they have not been told any of the truth at all by certain people in their governments and classified people about what those people know. Because what they found out scared them deeply. They found out that it's not all wonderful out there, mostly, but there's some tyrant races out there. And these are, an issue that needs to be dealt with by people on Earth, in government and other things. They have to deal with it. But they're not alone in the universe. So if we had to actually deal with all that alone, we wouldn't even be here. This planet would be taken over and dominated, most people killed already. On our own, influenced by negative things from outside this planet, people have dropped bombs, high nuclear bombs on people. They've tested them in our own atmosphere, radiated the whole planet. How insane is that? Why would a group of people get together and think it's okay to blow up a radioactive device in our own atmosphere? They have to be seriously misdirected subconsciously to think that's hip, slick, and cool, because it isn't. They know that now, of course. After hundreds of bomb tests, they finally banned it worldwide and stopped testing them in the atmosphere. So what do? They start to test them underground. That's not good either. Testing them and using them and having them at all is just not good. There's no good can ever come from it. There's no constructive good in them whatsoever. So why have them? Do you know the kind of money and time that's been spent in the nuclear industry, nuclear reactors, and all the danger of the radiation getting out, bombs and all that stuff? If that money and time and energy had been put into a fraction of it, into how to neutralize an imbalanced radioactive isotope they've refined to bomb-grade ore, if they put the science into turning that around so it's stable and it's no longer radioactive, this problem would have been solved long ago. They don't put any money or time into that. See the problem here? They're not mature. They're not awake enough to know that they need to balance out science with ways to neutralize anything that has potential destructive characteristics. It's common sense. They've done this long ago on other worlds. And if you can find something destructive and you realize how destructive it is, and you find a better energy source, and you've got a science that can neutralize destructive things, why would you even have the destructive things there at all? So they got rid of them, see? But it's true, you need some alternative that's clean or that can provide energy that doesn't have negative side effects. And here's the kicker about that. People on Earth will never have access to that in its larger way and higher use as long as they're thinking and imagining in negative ways. Because the beings who control and protect that type of higher science aren't going to allow us to use it unless we're mature enough to use it for the good of all life. It's as simple as that. There's no getting around it. There isn't any government or secret organization on this earth that will ever be allowed to play among the stars the way we are on this earth right now. And they know it. So you see, their biggest problem is, how do we disclose to all the people what we've kept secret for so long in a kind way, in a way that will be beneficial to everyone, including them? That's what's underway. That's not an easy task. It takes a lot of friends from out of town to pull that off. It's very simple. So, if we were alone in the universe, we would all be dead on this planet already from nuclear war, because these guys would have been compulsively compelled to set off hydrogen bombs and nuclear bombs. They would have blown everybody up. They tried, and something prevented them. Fortunately, I would say that whatever prevented them was not done to control the planet or be tyrants, but to say, look, you guys, I don't care how unconscious you are, you as 7.5 billion people here don't have the right to blow yourselves up and radiate and affect life 1,000 times greater in parallel dimensions on this planet, with the realities you don't even know exist. You do not have that right. And we don't. So this is another one of the things that's important. How do you go about telling people the truth without destruction, without harm, without death? There's enough of that already. And this is what they need help with, because there are beings from other worlds and other realities that know how to do this spiritually and technologically. They don't want to run the planet or take it over. They just want us to be able to play with them in a nice way as a group of one people on this planet. If people who are on this planet now originated out in the stars and want to return home one day, they've got to be consciously aware and kind enough to do it. You can't take people from Earth nuttier than a fruitcake and hate all over the place and fear and throw it out in the stars and throw that on all those people out there, because they're not going to allow it. I can tell you, they're not going to. That's common sense. So the fear that people have about involving themselves in life in our universe is a subconscious, negative, artificially created program put in people without their consent and without their current awareness. There are people in classified and other areas on this planet who know this. They've been trying to get free from it themselves, spending time developing weapons and things to defend this planet from tyrant races. In the end, there are races out there among the stars that can help. If we were in proper harmony with them, they would certainly prevent us from ever having to deal with tyrant extraterrestrials. That alone would give us breathing room to go out and explore. And if you want to go to someone else's star system that's got more advanced worlds and kinder people, you got to be invited. Now, if you are in the right frame of mind, they'll escort you there, give you a ship, how to get there, even the technology. It's not hidden from their people, but it is kept from people on Earth to some degree, because Earth is a very dangerous place of people who do not know who they are or what they're doing. So that's very important to know that. I just bring that out because if I don't say it this way, who will? When it's being said like this, it's meant for the benefit of all life on this planet. No one and no thing accepted in any organization, anywhere. What does that mean? It means the beings I work with respect all life, not just life on their planets, not just in their parallel dimension of the physical universe, in 144 parallel dimensions of the physical universe. Just in the physical universe. To respect all life means you have to have a peaceful, kind association with other beings where mutual science and mutual developments for the good of all life are engaged in and shared. So everybody can move forward to greater life, more serenity of being, kindness, feel good, open heart. This is possible at this time in our entire multidimensional history that has never been possible before to do what we can do now. Because we're getting help from friends from out of town that people don't know along this line. Now, when I say to you that I am not concerned about the future destiny of this planet, or my own, or yours, or anyone else, I really mean it. It means that the past prophesied Armageddon destructive thing for this planet that seers and insightful people saw thousands of years ago, when they saw it, it was accurate. But that has been significantly and permanently changed into something else so that we don't have to go through that again. Beings living on Earth have been through Armageddons on this planet millions of years ago on other worlds already. How many times do they have to go through it to learn something new? So that's the idea. When we work with the first sound behind creation, it begins to connect the real being to the source directly. They begin to have a communication with where they came from. And it begins to work to raise the vibration and consciousness of a person, especially now. When we start to focus our imagination for the good of all life, not just on our planet, it begins to work with us in bigger ways. Now, that's something that's important to know. So let's say we go on a little journey and exercise our creative imagination, which, remember, is not coming from the brain like most people think, because the brain isn't capable of imagining anything. It's not designed to do that. There's not a biologist, botanist, doctor on this earth that can show you a file somewhere of science that says, well, this part of the brain is like a motion picture camera projects an image on the back of the brain. No, that's theory. They can't prove that. It's just what they want to believe because they can't figure it out on Earth, because the brain doesn't do that. If you look out of your eyes at physical matter in a small spectrum of light and sound, these eyes are tuned to see a small band of color. Then you can see what's happening in that band of color. If you have another reality vibrating up here in physical matter, you won't see it, but it's there. And so forth. That's kind of the way that dimensions work. Parallel dimensions and higher dimensions, grand divisions in higher realities. They work like that. It's all frequency. It just means that sound of a very high nature first comes into creating lower dimensions, and then as it slows down, it becomes visible light. What you can see in the astral plane through physical eyes there and a physical body there, the next major dimension up here, is much wider and deeper and more colorful than what you can see in a physical body on Earth. It's in a higher frequency of matter. It's at a faster time rate. If scientists here understood this more, they would be able to understand how a higher energy that could get them around the universe can be applied to physical matter because it's already running through it. And they could put this energy through their device, go from here across the galaxy in a day by channeling it through their device and not use any energy at all. No pollution, nothing's burned. It's not hydrogen burning with oxygen and rocket fuel and all that stuff. That'll never get them to the stars, and they know it. It's impossible. So why do it? Bad habit, maybe. It's a nice thing to impress people with that we're like taking rocket ships to Mars. Not very likely. 2 years and more than that each way in a rocket ship, that once it's going fast enough, the rocket ship's up and it just floats. Long trip there and a long trip back just to get to one planet in our solar system. That's not practical. Can't play among the stars like that. We'll never be able to. They have an anti-gravity ship of some kind. Maybe you can whisk around a little bit here in the solar system, but they're not going to be able to travel way out there in them. There's too many other races that have established territories. Space is already occupied. So people want to work with other beings in other worlds, just in the physical universe alone, you're going to have to learn how to get along. Not like we show them people from other worlds we cannot do on this planet. Can't do it here. They're going to try to take that nonsense out with them out into the stars. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be tolerated. So that's really where Earth is right now. We're at this point in the creation of this galaxy and in this planet where it can move into playing among the stars quite easily and effortlessly. Or they can stay quarantined here, knocking heads together all the time, not knowing. So with that in mind, that this is for the benefit of all life, let's go on a little journey. Wherever you are, whoever you are on this planet, as a fellow human being, I'm not telling you what to do or lording anything over you, nor do I think myself superior or higher than you or less than you or anything else. But as a fellow being, so that people can have their own direct awakening experiences with what I'm sharing with them, put all your concerns, just for now, on the carpet, on the floor, in the seat next to you in a car, on the bed, somewhere. If you're sitting in a chair, close your eyes. If you're lying down, fine. Whatever it might be. It could be fear of chemtrails. It could be nuclear war. It could be North Korea. It could be Iran. It could be Russia. It could be China. It could be the United States. People lying. Whatever it might be that people are afraid of, concerned about, all the time tense. Let go of it. Put it aside just for now. We're not going to take it with us on this journey. We're going to utilize the imagination in the way it is meant to be used. This means that we're going to put our bodies in the trance state that we call sleep. Same state you put the body in when you go to bed at night and go to sleep and start snoring, and then you don't remember anything. Some people more than others. When you wake up, little bits of this, little bits of that. Some people have very clear dreams of other realities, and then they don't have any for a long time, and they have them, that kind of thing. We're going to put this aside. It's the same way, it's effortless. It's like if you close your eyes right now and imagine a waterfall, somewhere you've been on Earth, or a beach, or a hummingbird, or a seagull, or a snow-capped mountain, or planet Earth from space, looking at the polar ice caps from shots you've seen from the space shuttle or from the Hubble telescope. We all know what that looks like. All the people on this planet are up to date enough now to have seen that somewhere growing up, in school, in a book, somewhere. And they know how to close their eyes and imagine something they went on a camping trip last week. They can remember it. So it's the same thing, except when you know you're doing it consciously to move around the multidimensional universe and experience things, then the body goes into the trance state and you stay conscious. This is what we're doing here. I'm going to be sending out these tones on a series of higher pitches because they're designed to shut off the secondary and primary terrorizing programs people carry in the subconscious domain that affect their nervous system and their decision making in their daily life. We're going to shut those off for now. So the being can get out and look around and see things without their influence for a short time. When we do this, the being, when they begin to see, eventually they'll begin to realize they're actually seeing this stuff and being there. And it'll be more real to them or more full of life than where they are on Earth right now. But they'll do it in balance. They'll remain balanced, even become more balanced in life through the process. This is what we want. This is true for every single being on this planet. When they get ready to do it, they'll begin to remember. Imagine someone you love and respect, and you're grateful that whatever that is, person, place, or thing, is in your life, because it opens your heart, makes you feel happy, smile, whatever that is. I always ask people to send this statement out because it's worded very carefully. It's constructed in words that have holographic three-dimensional images associated with them. And it sends out this information through the pineal gland in the center of the brain, like a radio wave, out into the universe to connect with this underlying omnipresent living force that is in the void of space, connects planets together and people and beings. It's there. I'm going to send this out so that people in other languages can hear it in their own language. They may not be able to do this consciously because they may not have confidence that they can be telepathic. Telepathy works so that through the medium of this underlying current, any language spoken anywhere is understood by all Atmas. This is an old process that they knew well at one time and have been made to forget all about it. So we're going to do a little bit of this. You send out this statement if you wish to, or make one up similar in your own way. It goes like this. You're actually sending this out to the universe to help you. Safely show me deliberately hidden truth on a grand multidimensional scale, and the much greater knowing of the expansive love within it. You. Imagine a hummingbird hovering in front of your face, about a foot away, just looking at you. You can hear the fluttering of its little wings. You could almost swear that it's smiling. Its eyes are glowing, cheerful. It's just looking at you. You're in a field of tall brown grass. There's a big snow-covered mountain in the background and a waterfall cascading down a hillside into a winding snake of a lake between weeping willow trees. There's a smell of gardenias and lilacs in the air. Look up from wherever you are and think about space, being out in the void between planets. You live on a planet in an atmosphere, in a physical body that requires it. As the Atma, the being actually imagining this, it's not the brain or the body that's doing that. When we do the hues this way, it causes this pineal gland in the center of the brain to secrete melatonin, and that creates serotonin. And what it does is it puts the breathing and the heart and the lungs on automatic, so it will run and stay healthy and stay alive while you're on a journey, while you're gone. Remember, you do this every night when you put the body to sleep anyway. The difference here is we're doing it staying conscious, while the body is sitting or lying down, listening to my voice, which is really sending out a telepathic communication to you and to the entire planet right now. There are other beings like Turellian, Ambassador Turellian, and many other Galactic Alliance personnel, and some very advanced master teachers involved in this. Their motivation is to set free people on Earth, get them moving forward again as Atmas, as beings, and begin to make the entire creation work better than it ever has. That's part of it. When you imagine looking up from this field with the hummingbird, its little eyes, its beak, its long nose looks up, and you look up, and you'll see it dart straight up and vanish in a dart of light out in space. And from here, you can actually see it hovering in the void of space with a little golden bubble around it. And it's waving you up. All you have to do is be above your body, be in outer space, in orbit above the planet, like the space shuttle, or a satellite that can photograph the Earth with the polar ice caps and the oceans and the land masses. From up here, you don't see any fences. You don't even see cities. You just see a planet. And this black void all around you, but there's stars everywhere in every direction. When you look down on Earth, because you don't need to breathe oxygen here, you're not made of a material body, you're an energy being. You're spherical and you're radiating light. And you'll notice there are a number of other beings like you hovering in a group up here around this little hummingbird, hovering in this golden bubble. The hummingbird is not what it appears to be. As it begins to spin, it changes into a very tall being well, I should say it's an Atma like you, but a little brighter, kind of in the center of a group of us, hovering in space around him. He is an ambassador of the Seres race, a human race, long ago, that immortalized their physical bodies over 1 billion years ago. They're involved in helping to change not just Earth, but the way things work down here. If you want to see what his physical size is like, should he manifest a material body, it would be 18 to 20 feet tall, because the Seres were much taller than humans on Earth long ago. Elegant like a Greek god with slightly pointed ears and robin's egg blue eyes and long blonde hair. It's hard to describe such a being. And the reason he's here is not to lord anything over anyone. He doesn't think himself superior, although he is far more advanced than we are. He's here to kind of protect this little journey, so we can go on these journeys despite what's going on Earth with governments and people and news and all the rest of it. It's a protected journey. We're working in a field of energy known as the hue, which radiates through all things, behind it, above it, beyond it. It isn't positive, it is not negative. There's no negative emotions or energies in this field of energy when we're in the Atma, out of the body, exploring. If you listen, you can hear a sound, like the very high note of a flute, and the gentle crashing of ocean waves mixed with the humming of a million bees, a gentle hum though. This is the soundtrack. This is the what you would call the omnipresent living force, spirit, divine spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's a living energy, but it's not a being as an Atma like we are. It is a connective energy that connects all beings and things together. And there's a source way up in very high dimensions from here that we come from that comprises the energy that we are as beings. When you begin to experience this, you begin to remember who we are, what we look like, and how to move it around creation. Other worlds, parallel dimensions, higher dimensions. That's why we're hovering above the Earth. We could go many places from here. Another planet, somewhere in our own solar system, worlds into other galaxies, even on the other side of our galaxy, or into higher dimensions as well, and explore. We do it with people from the Galactic Alliance, many of whom are human. And if you'll notice now, there are dozens of other spheres floating here. And for some reason, they will seem very familiar to you. You can't quite put your finger on it, but there's no threat. There's nothing of a negative nature coming from them. They're curious, and they seem to recognize us. This means we have a history with them somewhere long ago, and they know where we are now. This is very heartwarming because it means they know where we are, and they're going to assist us to remember in a kind way. If you look at the void of space and see the stars everywhere in every direction, you can see the moon on the other side of the planet revolving, our sun way off in the distance, gleaming as a bit brighter star than the surrounding stars. In this form, in your true form, not only can you hear the sound this omnipresent energy makes, but you can see it. The void of space may not have oxygen, and it doesn't. but it's not empty. There is a field of energy particles that are white light with a gold tinge radiating through all that black void of space, connecting the moon to the earth, each of us to each other, to Terrellian, and it goes up high and out beyond sight into other realities. It keeps all the mechanics of the universe in place and running. As beings, we move and live and have our being in this ocean of living energy. If people understood this more as a conscious experience, there wouldn't be any problems on this planet Earth at all. Think of it this way. While you're out here, there are beings out there in such countless numbers, on such vast levels, on so many hundreds of millions of worlds, that work together in harmony, that are willing to share this with people on Earth when they are awake and remember and have the wisdom to utilize it kindly. There is only one way to use the creative imagination to beings like this, and that is to intentionally only create that which will be of an uplifting, beneficial nature to all life, and for no other reason. They grow up impassionate. How do I say that? Impassioned to create something new for the benefit of not just people on their planet, but people on countless worlds. And they share. It's pretty cool. There's no reason why the human beings on Earth cannot walk into this arena at this time. The Earth is capable of it. The people are, but they need to have their memories given back to them first. It's part of the deal. Those things which are subconsciously driving people to act out of terror. It's kind of like, I'm going to kill you first before you get to me, kind of an attitude. That's an automatic artificial program that needs to be turned off and dissolved. So in this state, out of our bodies, those programs are not functioning. And we can see and hear like we're meant to. In the center of this group of beings is Terrellian, and he's going to start emanating, and I'm hovering beside him now. We're going to emanate a kind of intensity, increase of vibration from this omnipresent living sound. And it's going to pass through every one of you, right through your sphere, spherical, what you are, kind of like the little teardrops up in each level of your being. And then it's going to continue beyond you out into space for the benefit of others as well. From here in space above the planet, send the memory and the experience down into your body, wherever it is on Earth, through the top of your head, into the brain to kind of turn things on, and let it pass out through the cells of your body, out into the planet, to the whole planet, to everything and everyone, and it will continue on into space. In this way, we begin to become co-creators with those beings who know how to fix this place, and we begin to co-create this with them. This should be very clear. The beauty of recording something like this is that you can play it back at another time when you can put headphones on or be very peaceful and serene. Set aside some time where you won't be disturbed. Maybe in the morning when you're fresh and alert, and then go through the whole experience again, as if you're going through it for the first time. And you'll get a lot more out of it. From this place above the planet Earth, look at your body wherever it is, and suddenly find yourself, this is through the imagination, of course, which is real, by the way, hovering above your body near the ceiling. If you're outside, it'd be above your body in the grass field you're laying in, or in a car, wherever it might be. And then when you're ready, open the eyes of your physical body. And it seems like the guys out there wanted to concentrate on being just above our Earth this time, to get grounded for people how to do this. Because as you know, we've gone on journeys much further dimensions and other realities and other planets. I don't know how ready most people listening to the show are, but they're going to get the knack of it. They're going to understand this matters. There's something important going on here, because they'll feel it in a good way in the center of their being. They'll feel something that connects with them. Something rings like they used to know this stuff. That's what I want them to get. The rest will happen naturally. Is that okay then, Perry, for you?
Yes, very okay. Very good, As.
Next time we'll go on a little further journey, but I sensed that this was important for people who might tune into this particular show.
Okay.
So I'll stop. I'll end this show now and then record it and send it to you so you can upload it to your YouTube channel.